I wanted to start off the show today talking about self-care, and not just self-care, but looking at what we could look at as the other side of the coin of encouraging ourselves. And I'm trying to come up with a concept or a way to phrase the concept. So far I came up with self-care versus self-carry, meaning carrying yourselves forward or pushing ourselves. But self-carry also can sound like something related to carrying a gun. Here in the United States, there's open carry laws and things like that. So anyway, for now we'll go with self-care versus self-carry. And I think when we look at our lives, often we're looking for easy rules to follow. Always do this. This is the most important thing. Always follow this rule exactly, and that's the path to a good life. But I really think most things that we have to do, and one of the biggest challenges we have in life, involves finding a balance between different beneficial things that in different degrees are good, but we have to be flexible because at different times what will be asked of us might require something different. So for example, it's not just about closeness in a relationship, it's about balancing closeness and space in order to create intimacy, in order to keep the fire of passion alive. Too much closeness and the fire collapses and doesn't get enough oxygen. Not enough closeness and there's no heat to keep the fire going. You have to find a balance. So if we want an easy rule, there isn't one. And not only is it not an easy rule, it's a constant balancing act, meaning that you're not just done. We've achieved the balance of closeness and space. No, you're two living, breathing people, and your relationship also is going to be living, breathing thing. So things will change. And so you might be in a good balance right now, but kind of like someone walking on a tightrope, which with each step you have to make sure you maintain that balance. And if you lose your focus, you can fall off. And so similarly, your relationship, for example, might fall off. So the reason why I wanted to talk about this today was the book I discussed on Monday's show, which I highly recommend, Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker, really brings to light how important sleep is. So the title says Why We Sleep, which is what it does discuss about why, and we don't really have a perfect answer for that. But it's also about what happens when we don't sleep, or what happens when we get enough sleep, and all the incredible health benefits that we get when we do get enough sleep, and all the ways we can suffer physically in essentially every organ and part of the body and system of the body, and also mentally and emotionally, and in our development when we're growing, but also for the rest of our lives, our brain development and health and maintenance, if we don't get enough sleep, how damaging it can be. And so I did take that to heart, and I shared this on Monday that I at times think I don't give enough emphasis to how much sleep I'm getting, or can be very inconsistent with that. And reading this book was definitely remotivating of making sure I prioritize sleep and how beneficial it can be when you do get enough. And also that sometimes people think, well, I'm okay with the amount I sleep, and it might be true, but at times we adjust to something and we don't realize it can be much better. Or you could think, well, you might be okay, but imagine how much better you would be if you were getting enough sleep or getting more sleep. That can make a big difference in how you feel, also in ways you might not realize. He also shares in that book some research where people can't determine or are bad at estimating the hindrance in their performance or how they're doing based on sleep deprivation. So you might think you're okay or performing at a high level, but you don't realize the deficits that are being caused by lack of sleep, and again, that you actually might do better if you sleep more. And so this did encourage me, as I was saying, to focus on my sleep, make sure I'm getting enough sleep and more sleep. And I highly encourage anyone listening, one, to get more sleep and to make that a focus and priority and don't think of it as an afterthought. And also to invest in your sleep in various ways. Talked to someone today about getting a new mattress for themselves, and I think that's great. Make sure your bed is comfortable. Make sure you make your room as dark as you can. Pillows, beds, all those things that you can make comfortable. go ahead and do that, because it's really one of those investments that returns favorably because of how significant our sleep is to our well-being. And when you consider if you're getting enough sleep, you shouldn't be in bed about 8 hours a night. That's about a third of your life that you are in bed. And so it can be smart to invest in making that a comfortable place to be and a place where you sleep well. So as I was thinking of this aspect of sleeping more, this could be considered one of the components of self-care. Make sure you get enough sleep, which I think is very true and very important. And so I think there's been a healthy movement in the world, and you look at things like social media and society in general, of recognizing that at times we live our lives in ways that are not taking care of ourselves, and we can burn out in a professional way, but also personally. We can recognize that we don't feel good physically, emotionally, and so people are recognizing, you know what, I need to take a break at times and make sure I'm taking care of myself, and not just focusing on work and the obsession with productivity that we can have at the expense of our own well-being, both physical, mental, and in our relationships as well. So I think this is a very good thing, that we recognize the unhealthy ways we live our lives. We recognize the things that we have accepted in society as normal ways of being that are not normal or healthy at all. While at the same time, I think this is good, there has to be a recognition, and this is what I was talking about, balancing two different components of the same coin in a sense, is that you also need to live a good life, push yourself out of your comfort zone. And when we talk about working hard in a good way, that at times involves pushing ourselves. And this is what I mean by self-carry, that you have to carry yourself forward too. So it's not just that, well, if you're resting and taking breaks, that's good. It is in its correct doses and in healthy forms. But also, we don't want to allow that to make us give in to not trying hard in our own lives, and we can also waste our lives by not putting effort into the things that will be beneficial for us long term. So because we're biological beings, we have a tendency towards doing things that maintain our especially momentary homeostasis. So if you feel a little bit tired, there's going to be a strong pull towards resting. And this is where I'm saying it gets blurry, because sometimes we really have to make sure we get that rest. It is important to get enough sleep, as I was saying. We do need to take breaks at times, but also it's important for us to push ourselves sometimes through some of those discomforts and pains in order to do better, to achieve more. If you're someone who hasn't exercised for 3 years and you start to exercise, it's going to feel uncomfortable and painful. It's going to feel almost wrong. A lot in your body might be telling you to stop because it doesn't feel good. Although we know that it's going to be good for you long term, in that moment, the pull is going to be towards, let me stop doing this. Let me take it easy. And so this is what I mean, that we have to be careful, because if we just think of, well, self-care, it's like, yeah, take a break, don't do that workout because it's making you feel bad. And that could be very dangerous in its own way. If we don't get enough activity, if we don't push ourselves in that way, our body will pay the price in the long run. We'll have momentary comforts, but we will lose in the long-term benefits of what we can do, and we'll pay the cost down the line. So this is where that balance has to come in. And sometimes we could be pushing ourselves, okay, I'm, let's say, exercising or working or doing something, and I need to keep pushing myself, but we might get to a point where it's unhealthy, where we're pushing ourselves too far. So we all have to look at this balance in our own lives of self-care versus self-carry. How much am I making sure I rest and take care of myself, maintain my overall well-being, which also includes things like having fun, relationships, even doing things that feel good, that might be productive in that sense, but also pushing myself out of my comfort zone as well. And there isn't a clear answer I can tell you that if you feel this, that means it's too much. If you feel that, that means it's too little. You're going to constantly have to reevaluate this within your own life. It's not a set point or a state to achieve, but an ongoing process, which also means we have to take a look at ourselves and what we're doing. Because often we don't, let's say, try something new because it makes us uncomfortable. And we might think, well, this is self-care. I don't feel good doing that. Well, is this, as I always say, the pain of discomfort that is leading to damage or pain that is leading to growth. And in the moment, it won't always feel so clear. In general, our body's going to push us, and our brain will push us towards doing the easier thing, but it's not clear which one it is. You're going to a party and you have a little bit of social anxiety. You're going to feel uncomfortable going to that party. Is it too much? It's hard to say. Sometimes it might overwhelm you and you might not be able to handle it, and it might even set you back because now you're even more anxious to go to the next party because you have a panic attack thinking about going this one or getting yourself there. But at the same time, it could be that if you just say, well, I'm too anxious, I'm going to stay home, you're reinforcing the anxiety. So we have to ask ourselves, where is this balance of self-care versus self-carry? When am I doing something that's actually taking care of myself by resting, or where am I actually preventing myself from growing and achieving things that will feel good? Because when we look at our lives, we have to take care of ourselves in order to keep going, but we also have to make sure we keep going. We're doing something, that we look back on our days, our weeks, our years, and our lives in a way that we feel good about what we've accomplished. So we do have to find a way to push ourselves in ways that won't always feel good in the moment, or often won't feel good in the moment, but leads to something better. We can look back and think, okay, look at how much I've accomplished. Look at how much effort I put in this direction consistently, and look at the results of that effort. And if we don't do that, I think unfortunately we'll look back on our lives and regret that we didn't do enough. And so it's maintaining ourselves, but also maintaining our goals. And it can be important to keep both of those things in line. So you can ask yourself, where do I fall on this spectrum? Where are areas of my life, because it's not something that's black or white either, or a binary thing of all of your life is one way or the other, but where in my life am I possibly not doing enough self-care, not taking care of myself, not making sure my well-being is in balance or in check? And also, where are areas where I might not be pushing myself enough, that I can do more, but I'm taking the easier, comfortable way out, which is easier in the moment, and I can justify by saying I'm taking care of myself, but really you might be limiting yourself and what you can do and what you achieve in your life. So this came to my mind in thinking about sleep and how important it is that we get enough sleep. And at any age, we still would want to have 8 hours opportunity of sleep, meaning being in bed for 8 hours or trying to get 8 hours of sleep. It is so important. And so I hope we all take that aspect of our life importantly. But of course, we have that 8 hours, but then what we do with the other 16, we want to make sure we fill it in a way that we feel good about too. So we want to do that self-care, but not forget about the self-carry and pushing and encouraging ourselves to do more. I'll work on the phrasing. I don't know if self-carry is gonna carry the day or gonna work, but I just wanted to bring up this type of a balancing act that we have to do. Another one of the many that it takes to live a good life: self-care versus self-carry. All right, let's go to our first commercial break. Studio number 310-441-0555. We'll be right back.